Hello again. If you haven't seen my first video on breaking down Loki episode 1, please check it out. I think it's up there, or is it over there? There's a card on the screen. I can never remember how it looks. I'm pretty sure it's this side. Maybe. Or is it mirrored? I don't know. But if you haven't seen the first video, go check it out now and then come back to this video. So I am breaking down Loki episode 1 in the perspective of film studies and as a film studies graduate, which I am. And I've been looking at some of the scenes that I like and some of the scenes that I don't really like, and also just breaking them down and what I think they mean in relation to the series and to the episode. And in the last video, we went through Loki's journey from the desert to the TVA and the experience he had, whilst going through the kind of process of being arrested and everything that included and becoming a variant. So now we are in France with Mobius, and this is where we first meet Mobius. And so I'm going to just jump straight into it. Like I said in my last video, we have a sense that Loki's always being watched. Everyone's always being watched by someone. Maybe it's the timekeepers or somebody else. Probably the timekeepers. I don't know why I say maybe. It's definitely going to be the timekeepers watching everything, because that's their job. And this scene where we first meet Mobius, we see him straight away from a bird's eye view, a fly on the wall angle. And again, it just shows that he too is being watched. Everybody is being watched. And then we go to a different angle where we see Mobius from down below. And the light is coming through the, I think that's supposed to be Joan of Arc. But the light is coming through and it shows that he may be a savior for Loki. And he, is going to help Loki just by this shot, because the light is on him, holy, and like a savior moment, and he's just a nice person, I feel. But then we get another angle and the light is directly behind him, and I don't know why they needed to do this thing. The other shot was really nice, the lighting was nice and delicate, but then we have another shot where the lighting is directly behind him, and if you've watched my last video, you know that I'm not a fan of these kind of shots. It's very blurry, it makes it too murky, very grainy, even though the entire thing is quite grainy for aesthetic purposes. And yeah, I'm just not a fan of it. Yeah, I just don't like the lighting when there's a big light behind a character, unless it's done for a purpose, so suspenseful, put them in shadow, but we don't need to see Mobius in this shadow, I don't feel. Then, this is a very interesting angle. So we have the kid who Mobius meets in the church or cathedral, and his arm, so he's in a square, so it shows that this kid, we need to be focused on this kid, and this kid's important for the next scene and to, move on the plot. And if you've seen episode 2, spoiler, if you've seen episode 2, this kid is actually important. We figure out that this kid's more important than they realize, and he actually gives them clues to where Lady Loki, we don't know really if that's her, is. So with them in a square and kind of zoomed in on that kid, because he's in a box within a box as well, within a box actually, and so we know that this kid, is quite important. When I first saw it, I'm like, is that Loki? No, it's not. But there's also a scene similar to this coming up as well. So keep that in mind. When we meet the kid too, they zoom in on the kablooey like candy, and again we find out in the second episode that this is important to the plot also and moves it along. So them zooming in on it and showing that the entire screen is just made up of this gum, we straight away know, oh, this is important. This is important. So we have to keep that in mind. Also, I went back because I went forward and then I went back because this scene with Mobius walking through the church is nearly exactly the same as this scene of Loki walking through the court. Except they're walking in different directions, but they're also walking towards each other. And obviously this is what happens, they come together. And I just found this quite interesting because it shows that they're not that different and they're going to come together and help one another. But it also shows how the church, cathedral, religion and everything, and whatever you think about religion, you have that. And then you have the TVA and the timekeepers, which is very propagandary and has like the kind of stained glass window effect on the walls, which is exactly the same as the church. So, and then we meet Ravonna Renslayer, who I don't kind of trust. Just saying, I don't really trust this woman. But we see her straight away from below. So we are looking up at her with the timekeepers in the back behind her, quite large. And again, those eyes looking straight at Loki and everything that's happening. And then we just have a wide shot of the 3 timekeepers and Raina sat slap bang in the middle of it. So I do not trust this woman. Do not trust this woman. Rainslayer, not Raina. I'm calling her Raina. Rainslayer. I don't know. Something not right there. And then, like I said about the church when we first saw the kid, we now see Mobius under Loki's arm in this kind of box, triangle, but it's very similar to that shot where he saw the kid. So again, we're like, oh wait, Mobius is important now. So he is important because he helps Loki and saves him. And we see him watching and just waiting for his moment. And then we have the exchange of Rainslayer with Mobius, and he is looking up, directly up at her, and she literally leans over the desk to see him, and that just shows the representation of them both and how she is a lot higher up than he is, and he is below her and looks up to her. And we see that in episode 2 that he respects her and looks up to her because she is not only his boss, but I just feel like he has this respect for her. But also because she is looking down on him and everybody else. And also, is she the one watching? We don't know. Then we see the TVA, and I just really like this shot. Obviously, it's all CGI, but I just really like it, and I think it's really cool. It's very cool. Yeah, I like this. Moving on. And like I said, I think in my last video, that there's a lot of upward shots where we are seeing the characters from below, and I don't really like it all that much, but they are in an elevator, yes, and it's that claustrophobia again. Loki's trapped again, he can't find a way out, and it's also obviously giving us his perspective, and we're seeing his expressions, but I don't like these kind of shots. Throughout the whole thing, we have these shots of us looking up at the characters, and I don't know, let me know your thoughts on that. I don't know what it is. I'm not a fan of it. And then we move on to where they're going into the time theatre, and we have this shot where Loki is stood on top of the stairs and Mobius is coming down with them. And then so Loki is then higher up than Mobius, and that's not reality. He actually isn't. Mobius can get rid of him like that. But in this shot where Loki is kind of mocking the TVA and the Timekeepers, calling them like space lizards, I feel he feels superior. He is back in that frame of mind that we know of him, where he thinks he's superior and he is better than everyone else and he's more powerful. Therefore, he puts himself on like a pedestal, like right at the beginning when he's in the desert and he stands on the rock to be higher than the like commoners. He does it again. So he's above Mobius, but he's not really. That's just his frame of mind, and it shows that he thinks he is better than everybody else and superior. And then we have the time theatre scene, which is more of a, here it looks like an interrogation or negotiation you see in cop dramas and detective dramas when the prisoner is being interrogated by the cop. And this is basically what's happening here. And this comes back to like the grittiness and the graininess of like old 80s cop shows and detective shows, which are grainy and dim and dark. It really works. That kind of aesthetic really works with this scene, I feel. And then we have a very wide shot of the two looking back at the very start of the episode when we see New York. So we're completely transported back to the beginning. And so is Loki. I do kind of like this shot where it's really open, but there's nothing else in this room. It's just them two, so it's very lonely. And when we see Loki at the end of this episode, we see him by himself in this room, and it is a very lonely room. It's a very big room, an empty room. But I also want to point out that they are on the same level. Like when we see Mobius and Loki, except when Loki's trying to be superior, they're usually on the same level, and I just feel like that's because they're kind of like on the same wavelength, even though Loki doesn't know it. Mobius is on the same wavelength as him, and Mobius knows him so well that Loki can't really do anything that surprises him. And then I just want to point out this scene here where Mobius has put the little device in his pocket, and obviously Loki, with his sleight of hand and like magician skills, because Loki's a magician in another life, he swipes it. So very clever. And then we have Mobius with Hunter B15, and I just found this interesting because they're arguing about Loki, and obviously Hunter doesn't want Loki here. Hunter just wants to get rid of him and move on. Mobius, on the other hand, has very different ideas with him, but there is this banister in between them, and it shows that they are on different sides. There is something between them, and it is causing friction, and that is Loki. But also, I don't think it is, because he says to Hunter, Mobius says to Hunter at some point that she's always wanting to just get rid of them. To them, a variant is a variant and nothing else, and just get rid of them. So I feel like they have very different ideas and morals and ideologies when it comes to the variants, and especially Loki. Also, in this scene, there is also a CCTV camera pointing straight at them. So Mobius too is being watched. Everyone's being watched. And then we have Loki escaping, and I just have this scene again because I don't particularly like it. Again, we're very low, and I know they're trying to show, a lot of things, but why couldn't they have brought us up a bit, done it, at their level, but we're below them again with the lights. And it's cool, it's symmetrical and stuff, but it's just not my cup of tea. It just makes it really, really grainy. That's the thing. It just makes it very grainy. And then we have Loki finding the Tesseract again with Casey. And this is interesting because when Loki finds the Infinity Stones, he's literally on his knees. And he, wants to escape. He's on his knees, metaphorically too, because he is being dragged down further and further and further. And he's basically pleading now, metaphorically, to get out and just to, escape and be away from these TVA. Loki's just threatened Casey. He's got what he wanted, but figures out, oh wait, it's useless. And now he realizes Casey, that, mail carrier, receptionist, guy who doesn't seem to be all that important, is more powerful than him, has power over Loki and more power than him. And also, he can just pick up Infinity Stones and not be affected. And this is when the humbling begins and Loki finally realizes, oh shit, I'm in trouble. And finds out that, the TVA are very powerful. And this shot is interesting because, Casey is even on the same level as Loki now. And they both stood together just looking at the screen. And yeah, they're now on the same level. And like I said, Loki is being dragged down further and further, and then he literally hits rock bottom. Literally. He, takes himself back to the time theatre. There's no chair there because he's flung it. And so he hits the floor because he has gone to rock bottom. This is the lowest of the low for him, and he doesn't see an escape. Like I said when we were looking at the time theatre, there's this point where he's by himself. He's got rid of the chair, so there's only one chair there now. And he is alone and by himself, and it's a very lonely shot, very lonely atmosphere. It's very, clinical and everything, but he is all alone by himself, and it's quite a somber moment, I feel. Like I've been saying the whole time, that they are being watched constantly. Well, he's playing out his life, but surely if he was to play out his own life, he would see it through his eyes. But he's seen it how we've seen it, through the movies. Therefore, the movies that we've seen are actually, metaphorically, the timekeepers watching. And that's just, what I feel. So, because if you're going to see your own life, you wouldn't see it through this, you would see it through your own eyes. But he's seen it how we've seen it. Therefore, he's being watched constantly. Everyone is constantly being watched. And I just found it very interesting, as this is how he's seeing his life play out through the eyes of somebody else. And technically, he is somebody else now. He's not the same person. And then we have, obviously, the old film running out. And I just liked this shot and the aesthetic and everything of, like, the time just going and the film ending like an old film would do in, like, the cinema. And that was the end of his life, an end of his reel. And I have been saying all along that somebody's watching. And then we see this poster, this very poster, saying always watching. But this guy too, who is this guy? It's just a random guy with these creepy eyes. So, they're always watching. Somebody's always watching. And then we end the episode seeing this, new Loki, this variant who is apparently Loki. And this is such a, obvious way of showing a villain, isn't it? This, like, murky, dark, foggy place of them in the middle, but they're in shadow and they're a figure. And yeah, it's just such an obvious shot. We obviously get it. They are a villain. We're going to meet them more often. They're new. Yeah. Just, ending on a low there, isn't it? No, it's not, because I have one more, which is this fire scene. And I was thinking, well, is this foreshadowing? Probably, because as we know from episode 2, I'll call her Lady Loki, but I don't know if that actually is her. Lady Loki then is out to, I don't know, either destroy the TVA or cause chaos or something. And the flames and this scene, I feel, is foreshadowing what her plan is. And that is episode 2. So thank you for watching this video, and thank you so much if you've watched part 1 and part 2. Thank you. Comment any of your thoughts down below about this episode and just the series in general, and if you have any theories, any scenes that you particularly liked, and where you think that taking this. Are you excited to see more? Because I am. And please subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, and I will see you in the next